97, 98, 99, 100. There it is. Kyle's so pumped up. He hadn't heard the intro song before. It's his first week. He heard it, and it just inspired him to drop down and give me 100 push-ups. That's right.
We're back, baby. That new intro song has got me going. The blood's flowing from the pectorals down to the triceps. We're pumped up, and we're ready to talk about last week's fights.
All right, now after our spoken word introduction, you know that it's your host, Adam Gerber, bringing you the Throwin Bones MMA podcast with his co-host,
Kyle Wheeler.
And you know that we're gonna cover last week's UFC Tampa card, because it was bangin'! You know, we're gonna go over the news this week, and what are we talking about for next week, Kyle?
UFC Boston.
That's right, how do you like them apples? Talking about apples, let's talk about last week's apples in Tampa. What fight should we start out with, Kyle, talking about from last week?
Let's start out with the main event, if that's alright with you.
I feel like that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, no, that was a great main event between Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Michelle Waterson.
Do you want to talk about our prediction from last week?
Yeah.
Because you know I do.
Yeah.
Because you know what my prediction was?
It was the right prediction.
It's exactly what happened.
Exactly,
It's exactly what happened. I didn't see a path for Michelle Waterson. I saw her probably being over-reliant on her clinch work and getting her wrestling down to implement her jiu-jitsu. There was a few moments in the fight where she was able to get that trip and get to her back. But like I said, you know, it was on display against Rose. It was on display against Claudia Gadelha. It was on display against Jessica Andrade. I think you're in for a long night if your game plan revolves around getting Joanna Jędrzejczyk to the ground, because her clinch work, her cage work, and her takedown defense is fantastic. Michelle Waterson tried to implement it, had nothing after that, after it wouldn't work. What did you think of the fight, Kyle?
Yeah, you know, Joanna dominated in there. It was beautiful. It was basically a Muay Thai clinic. It was beautiful to watch. I loved it. She was just on another level in there. She looked like Joanna, the champion, what we used to see from her. I love just how she was switching it up. You know, she'd be kicking the leg, she'd mix it up to the body, mix in a front kick. You know, you'd think she's going to the body. No, she goes up to the head. It was just a beautiful display of Muay Thai. And yeah, it was a striking clinic, and she really showed just neutralize the takedown, defend the takedown, and then just beat her up on the feet.
Not only a clinic in Muay Thai, but a clinic in how to implement Muay Thai in an MMA fight.
Exactly, right. She was keeping the distance with her kicks, but then whenever it rushed in, right, she'd hit her with the elbows from the clinch. So really, Michelle, when she was in there, she was probably really thinking, right? She's having a hard time. What do I do next? Because every time she would try something, she's either getting knee kicked or elbowed.
Yeah, and I really think, well, not necessarily that I think, I guess I'll run this by you and see what your opinion is. Does this and, you know, previous weeks we're learning more and more about Frank Lester, Diego Sanchez, Cowboy Cerrone, Mike Perry, and their experiences with the gym and what Jackson Wink is becoming. To me, this performance, especially when you hear someone like Trevor Whitman being on the broadcast, talking about her creativity, it really seemed to me like there was no plan B. There was no, if we can't take her down, what do we do? And to you, is that reflective of where Jackson Wink seems to be going as far as pedigree of gym?
Yeah, no, I do see it. It seems like a lot of the fighters, we're not seeing very much growth in between fights.
They seem to be losing a step.
Exactly, right? Like Michelle in this fight, she was really working, you know, like that karate kick, like the up kick. Mm-hmm. You know, she was just kind of throwing it out there, like for danger, you know. It wasn't coming close to landing. It was just kind of keeping space. A threat is really what it was.
Very much the Jackson Wink style of kickboxing.
Exactly, right? And, you know, I thought personally, just going into this fight, that Michelle would be, you know, obviously she was training Muay Thai and kickboxing. That's Joanna's specialty. But I thought she'd be working more like little things, like even just like simple boxing, like the jab. You know, like just little things, you know, landing the jab, you know, finding the home with the jab, falling out with the other combos that, you know, once you find the jab, you have success with that, you know, you can start throwing the straight behind it or whatever works for you. So,
well, and we like to try and stay away from telling people that they made a mistake or that, you know, they did the wrong game plan, because, you know, what do we know? We're just a couple of jabronis with a microphone. But to me, when you look at it, and who has beaten who has beaten Joanna by implementing their ground game? No one. No one. It's all about being able to neutralize her range kickboxing and dart in and out of range, being faster than her, and being able to mix in the threat of takedowns without your entire game being predicated on landing one. Because I think the only person we've seen successfully and consistently take her down is Valentina with her judo trips and Muay Thai trips. Right?
Yeah, and she just looks so much more powerful than her, right?
So I don't get if you're gonna game plan for this fight. I don't understand how the game plan is get her to the ground or we're screwed. You know?
No, definitely, and I agree with you there. Like I would like to see just a lot more basics. Just basics win fights, and especially when you're fighting a world class kickboxer, who knows? Like interrupting her rhythm with your jab, or just keeping her at distance, just using the jab. It's such a big key. It can help you out so much in a fight. It would have just been cool to see her kind of, instead of throwing up that front kick so much, just using a bit more like basic boxing too.
Well, and at a certain point, I feel like her stance really betrayed her, because there's only at a certain point those front leg attacks that she was flicking up completely stopped landing or having any sort of effectiveness, but she was still standing in that long stance, to throw those kicks. And unfortunately, part of being in that long stance is you leave your leg wide open to leg kicks. And both of her legs got ripped up and chewed up, essentially, throughout the course of the entire fight. And it seemed like she wasn't getting the benefit from that stance. She was only getting the negatives.
Yeah, no, like she was eating a lot of shots, especially the leg kicks. Like those all night were landing. Joanna just kept tapping her leg. It might not have been the hardest leg kicks, but they add up. Getting kicked in the leg sucks. But yeah, like it was truly just a beautiful display of Muay Thai and MMA.
Does this victory over Michelle Waterson give you any more confidence that she can beat Rose again?
It doesn't. No. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's really tough to... I mean, obviously this sets her apart as a contender in this division, but it's really hard to see what her chances are of regaining that throne. Even Weili Zhang, I thought was very impressive, and the power she carries, that's going to be a tough ask for Joanna.
Yeah, and that's a bad matchup for Joanna, in my opinion. I don't think Weili Zhang is the fight for her next at all.
No? Well, that's what I was going to ask you is, Rose is still undetermined. We haven't heard from her.
Yeah.
Tatiana Suarez is still dealing with her neck injury. She's out.
Yeah.
She's not going to even call anyone out.
And that would be a fight I would love to see, but obviously she's out.
I think, barring the injury, I think Tatiana's next in line for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's the injury that's sort of taking her out of the competition. So, other than those two, and now Michelle Waterson's been defeated, she was sort of the other person in talks for that. Who else is there to challenge Weili Zhang right now other than Ioane and Jacek, whose foot is not broken, by the way?
Yeah, it's just bruised up.
Just bruised up. So, I mean, she's going to have the quickest turnaround out of all these people.
I mean, yeah, I guess how things are working out right now, it does put her in line for the next title shot. Have you heard what's going on with Zhang and her visa? She's having a problem getting a visa?
No, it got cleared. She can fight in the U.S. now.
Cool. Yeah, no, awesome. But yeah, I guess just how everything's working out, she might get another title shot. I don't think that's going to be the fight, to get her belt back, because I think Weili Zhang's a beast.
With the new mix-up in that division, you've got Weili Zhang, who carries that power, has the kickboxing style, but carries that power. It looked like she was going to dance around Andrade the whole night the same way Joanna did, and then she just caught her and knocked her dead, right?
Yeah.
So what exactly... is there a path for her to get back to the belt right now? Because Weili Zhang doesn't seem like a good opponent. We've seen her get pretty much outclassed by Rose twice now. Well, not outclassed. The second was a very close fight, but you've dropped 2 to Rose. Rarely do you win a third in that case. And then on top of all that, you have Tatiana Suarez, who is super Gedalia. You had your close rivalry with Gedalia. Tatiana Suarez is a whole nother beast coming up that division. Yeah. You have those 3 people in a whole nother row of contenders to deal with. Is it maybe a Ronda Rousey situation where her style of fighting is just going to be passed up? Yeah. Or maybe her physical frame, her physical abilities might have more to do with it than her style of fighting.
Yeah, and oh man, it's really tough to say, because I personally think, as we're saying, the division's so shallow right now, it kind of puts her in that perspective. How would you feel seeing her rematch?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's shallow. I would just say that a lot of the depth of it is being pulled out. Like we mentioned, we're going to mention later. Nina Ansaroff is going to take a year off to have her child with Amanda Nunes. You have Rose. I think the division is stacked. I just think a lot of the players are just out of commission right now.
Yeah, like I don't know what's going on with Andrade, but a rematch between her and Joanna would be a very interesting fight.
As a contender fight,
especially if it had that label on it, contender fight, right?
Yeah.
So, I do believe though, I did see actually that they did say before the Michelle Waterson fight that the winner would be getting a title fight.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably what is going to happen,
where we're at
right?
then with
So, so we're going off on this tantrum, but
what's your early? Then what is your early prediction for that fight?
Willie Zhang by 3rd or 4th round TKO, no doubt about it.
Yeah, because we know Joanna definitely has a proclivity for being dropped. She's been dropped multiple times, usually with low percentage shots, jabs, stuff like that, things that don't carry a whole lot of weight. So also, I think if you're able to be accurate and touch the target with the natural power Zhang carries, she's not going to need to put too much muster on those shots to eventually drop the queen.
Yeah, and I just think I saw this video of Zhang out on Instagram, just her. Dana White reposted it, and it's just her hitting the pads, and she actually takes the time to comment on the video and saying, "This is my job. I love it very much. I train every day." And I just love that. I love that attitude, and I just think she's going to be a problem in this division, a champion for a while.
All right, well, why don't we move on to another fight on this card? We got Cub Swanson versus Kron Gracie. What do you think of this fight? This one was a banger.
This was an awesome fight.
Should it have been a banger?
Yeah.
Were you a little baffled with Kron Gracie's approach to this fight?
You know what? I saw Kron losing this fight from the start. I thought Cub was going to be hungry, and I really saw this as in a jiu-jitsu versus a complete mixed martial artist fight. I thought Kron, he was going to go in there. He was going to, if he couldn't get him down to the ground, Cub was going to stand, piece him up, as we saw. He did piece him up. Cub had no really good wrestling offense. We really Kron had no good wrestling offense. We just saw Cub picking him apart with the shots. Beautiful body work. I was loving that. Mm-hmm. And Kron, he kind of had that old school jiu-jitsu style. He
was trying to get them. He was trying to get them all from the clinch. Essentially, he was trying to clinch up,
like pull guard.
Was he even though? Because a lot of times he got the clinch and he would just feed him a couple uppercuts and then just let go. It was very bizarre to me. It seemed almost lackadaisical.
It was lazy, but one thing I did notice actually is he was kind of baiting him. He would pull guard, right? And then he would try and sweep Cub out.
Yeah.
And as Cub would kind of be getting out of there, he would throw up that up kick.
Yeah. Did it seem like he was trying to prove a bit of a point with his striking for this fight?
I'm not too sure what it was. Really.
What is it about Cub Swanson that brings it out of these up and comers?
Yeah, exactly. You definitely saw a lot of the Diaz bros coming out of Kron Gracie there. He was eating shots, walking forward, and
even the way he was almost sort of slapping with his overhand.
Exactly. Yeah, and he had his moments, right? He was touching him up. He wasn't, going swinging from his hips. He had a couple nice combos. I'll give him that for sure.
Absolutely.
And he did hold his own in the fight, but
wrestling.
Nothing.
No wrestling at all.
And we were talking to Johnny Munoz today about this.
Coming out soon. Exclusive interview with King of the Cage bantamweight champion.
Especially when you're in the UFC, the highest level of martial arts, it's a big stage, and you have to be good everywhere. Actually, you can't even be good everywhere. You have to be great everywhere. When you're at this high of a level, there's no room for error. Even if you are a Gracie, cool, but the sport's evolved so much.
Well, you need to be great everywhere, but you also need to be great in a way that emphasizes what you're amazing at. It used to be the best rounded fighter is the one on top, the GSPs of the world. That's just not how it is anymore. You need to be well-rounded and have something you're amazing at and have every other piece of your game direct towards that. And to me, Kron had no process for how to get the fight to the ground and how to use what he excels at in the fight.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It was basically Cub had him beat in every step. That was basically what was going on. He would try and pull guard. Cub would be out, stand back up, buddy. So, So yeah, I completely agree. He just didn't really have, he obviously has the skill set, but he wasn't able to apply it in actual combat. Right? So he wasn't able to take whatever he was trained, whatever he was drilling to do, he wasn't actually able to use that effectively in the cage.
Right. Yeah, and it to me it's so not necessarily disappointing, but baffling when you have something you're so good at and you're just gonna how far do you think you're gonna move up the rankings and people are just gonna sort of let you do it? Like, how many times he tried to pull guard, right? And I have nothing against trying to pull guard. If you're that good of a jiu-jitsu practitioner, that's where you're gonna win the fight. But to be that good of a jiu-jitsu practitioner, to pull guard, have the guy escape, and then sit there for an extra couple of seconds trying to like wave him in like he's gonna follow you into your guard, it's like, that can't be your plan for how to engage this guy on the ground. I'm going to taunt him until he jumps on me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work, right? How often do we see they come here and then by this, like, no, stand up, exactly. Right? It happens all the time. It's also a bit annoying seeing that, right? When you see the jiu-jitsu guy, the guy's beating him up and jiu-jitsu guy's like, no, come here.
To me it's just as annoying as when you see the guys being just held down in position and they're going, this is so dumb, like, why won't you fight me? Like, to me, I get just as frustrated either way, whether they're flopping to their back and going, just come in my guard, please, or if they're going, oh, why can't you just stop holding me down? Either is equally frustrating.
No, for sure. I just really like this performance from Cub. I think it was
so happy for him.
Yeah, it was huge for him. He's coming off two big losses, and it's just cool to see him get back in the win column. And it's also cool to kind of see that old school Cub we saw a couple years ago, flashback to the Korean Zombie fight where he brought it and he brought the barn down. He was throwing bombs. Everybody was excited. The people I was watching the fight with, they were loving it. It was really beautiful work, and I'm always a fan of the body work. So,
well, speaking of Korean Superboy, I think you said Zombie.
I said Korean Superboy.
He called out for the rematch after watching this fight.
Awesome.
Is that's something that I definitely want to see, but at the same time, I'm like, let Cub have another run, man. Stop giving Cub these young killers coming up, because he's had a tough run, and you could tell him, like, he broke down after this fight. You could tell that for him, this was not a stepping stone. This was a milestone in his career. This was a make or break moment. And I think whether or not he was able to come out of this fight victorious was really going to tell him personally a lot about where he still stands in this profession.
Yeah, I agree with you with that. And it was truly just awesome to see him enjoying the victory. We had the moment of him tearing up.
Yeah, I might have teared up a little bit too.
Yeah, it's cool to see. Feel for the guy.
Onions in my apartment.
But I want to get your opinion on this. So Cub was training around gyms, right? And he had problems getting into some jiu-jitsu gyms because he was fighting a Gracie. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion on that?
Well, to me, that it seems quite petty, and especially if you I did a lot of the research on the Gracie family and them, keeping jiu-jitsu techniques to themselves when I wrote the Tony Ferguson article that's up on the website and the history of his jiu-jitsu and how the Machados sort of broke that cycle. It's weird how much of a cult following it breeds and how much they're concerned with sort of infighting and protecting that. You would think as a gym you would want to train the guy who's going to go fight Kron Gracie because it's kind of a win-win. Either you trained the guy and, oh, well, he did as best as he could, it's frickin' Kron Gracie, or you win and you trained the guy who beat Kron Gracie. And all that does is give you an incredible amount of credibility, even if you won most of the fight on the feet. And it goes against what jiu-jitsu was invented for in the first place, It's about spreading it to a wider audience. It's about making it more accessible so that more people can do it and more people can implement it. Honestly, to me, the true essence of jiu-jitsu is, well, if you can train someone to, beat Kron Gracie, then that's indicative that, the Gracies need to fix something with their system. They are the jiu-jitsu royalty that they are, and I would assume that as the royalty that they are, being the proprietors of the original Gracie challenge, they would want the toughest challenge. To me, if I was Kron Gracie, I would almost be insulted that other schools wouldn't teach Cub. Be like, what, you need to protect me from him? You know, like, are my skills so fragile that, you know, you have some secret knowledges that you're going to dispense on Cub and he's going to be able to defeat me all of a sudden? No, I would want to have that confidence in my own style and in my own ability.
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, to me, right, it really just takes away from those gyms that are saying no, because, you know, at the end of the day, martial arts, you know, it's a community. You know, everyone's, you know, you can't just say, hey, oh, you're related to Mike Tyson, you can't box here. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you can, but it seems against the spirit of the whole thing.
No, exactly, right? It's like you're turning away somebody because the one guy comes from this big, you know, this legendary family, done so much for the sport, and then you're turning away his opponent who's just trying to get better, you know, get the good looks to win the fight.
The more everyone learns, regardless of whose opponent is who, the more the sport grows.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. No, I agree with that. I just thought you would be a good guy to ask about that. I thought that was quite, you know,
backward. It seemed backwards,
yeah,
and then
exactly.
also, but that's where jiu-jitsu comes from. Jiu-jitsu wouldn't be jiu-jitsu without people who are tinier trying to refine it so that it's accessible to more people, not just the warriors or the upper class or whatever it is. So to me, it's backwards, but it's also not backwards because it's not even a shared belief that was held back in the day.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
Where even are we now? James Vick versus Nico Price. You should be louder with those pages, by the way, just in case no one can hear them yet.
I don't even know why I moved that.
I don't know.
It wasn't even that funny. I'm sorry for that laugh. I don't know why that was so funny.
That was me. James Vick, Nico Price. Vick's welterweight debut. He had a history of getting knocked out viciously. Tradition continues. Nico Price, history of unorthodox, hella creative knockouts. Tradition continues. One of my favorite sayings in the sport from the Co-Main Event podcast, everyone got to do their stuff in this fight. Everyone got to do their stuff.
Yeah, everyone did get to do their stuff. Especially Nico Price. Florida boy. All glory to God. Knockouts for life. That was awesome.
He just makes it work. He seems like a true fighter, and he just tries to do damage in any position.
No, that's the thing, right? I seen Nico Price fight live in Edmonton. He fought Jeff Neal, win or lose. Amazing fight. Best fight of the night, actually.
Definitely.
So, seeing Nico after watching him fight live, coming off a loss, I knew he'd be coming in there, and I knew he'd be coming in there hungry looking for the knockout.
Absolutely. And you knew he'd probably get it if he was fighting James Vick and he kept his hands down. Second upkick KO in UFC history. Second most finishes at welterweight since 2016 with 6, but only behind Vicente Luque, who has 8. Bisping says he's a very creative and inventive striker. And you know what? I think Nico Price takes our quote of the week this week.
What's our quote of the week this week?
Our quote of the week this week comes after Nico Price's fight. He says, "Wherever I gotta hit ya, I don't care. Fighting's not a technique. You just fight. Be a dog. Get in it."
I love that. I'm going to apply that to my life, to be honest with you. And you can truly see that Nico Price, you know, I don't know if he thought of that quote before this fight, and he had that pre-written out for his post-fight speech, but it sums up exactly his fighting style, and I love it.
It couldn't be more unorthodox.
No, yeah, exactly. I looked at Andre and Dobbin, and I was like, you know what's crazier? Their jaws were on the floor, and I looked and I told these guys, you know what's even crazier? That's his second knockout off his back.
Yeah. Wherever I gotta hit you, I just don't care. I love it.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was an incredible finish.
Oh my god. We'll move on. Do you have anything you want to say about Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Ribas? It was a very good scrap back and forth. Ribas just sort of, or Hebas, I guess, just sort of dominated the entire thing.
That was an awesome performance by Ribas. I'll definitely be looking out for her next fight, and I loved her energy.
Yeah, especially
out back.
The interview was fantastic. She's coming off a submission over Emily Whitmire. To me, she's probably one of the most promising prospects at 125 right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And yeah, just her attitude and energy behind. I loved when she was like, she has a big name. I have a big name too. I love that so much. So yeah, I'll be looking out for her next fight for sure.
I found her striking defense was on another stratosphere than Mackenzie Dern's.
Dern looked like she just had a baby.
that's I mean, to be fair, she's always sort of fought like that.
She's always been throwing the loop and hooks.
She's got kind of sloppy striking defense, and her wing and dingers worked last time against Amanda Beth Cooper. And she's got her trips. Again, Cron Gracie, she's got her trips from the clinch, but she does not shoot traditional takedowns, and it stifles her because all you're doing is limiting the entries that your opponent has to worry about.
You know what though too, I also did think that Mackenzie Dern was sitting back a bit too much, and like she was exchanging too much on the feet. In my opinion, I thought she didn't really go for broke too much trying to get it to the mat. Like she was comfortable. It was a great display of mixed martial arts. They're both jiu-jitsu black belts, and to see both them basically stand up and fight for 15 minutes is pretty cool to see.
Yeah. At what point did you figure out who you were rooting for in this fight? Did you ever figure it out? Did you ever have a rooting for?
Well, I was going for Dern because I had her on a parlay and she blew that for me.
I realized who I was cheering for the second Dern walked out to Old Town Road.
Yeah, that was dusty.
I knew that I wanted Hebos to win for sure.
After, I thought Dern just had it, but after seeing the fight and seeing Reba's after the fight, I'm a fan.
The female Marlon Moraes. I loved the voice.
I would compare her to Yo Romero, to be honest with you. Yeah, just the movement she was doing.
Dancing.
It was very funny to watch. So look forward to see her fight again.
Oh, what else do we talk about on this card, Kyle? There's so much to go through. Marlon Vera versus Andre Ewell. What a fight!
What a fight!
I think we had that pegged as a possible certified banger of the night.
Yeah, I think we did. And
were we ever correct?
Yeah, it lived up to the name. I loved this is the theme of last week's card. I loved every minute of it, to be honest with you.
And even when they went to a decision, it was never a boring decision.
No, it wasn't. Like that Cheeto Vera fight. So exciting. When he caught him in the head and arm choke and threw him to the ground, I was losing it. I was losing it, bro.
That was beautiful. It's one of my favorite submissions to watch people catch. Sensational performance by Vera. Why does this man not have a ranked opponent yet? He's on a 5-fight win streak. I mean, the people he's taken on, it's been an impressive list.
We'll see him next, I'm sure, against a ranked guy, but I thought
that for the past 4 or 5 fights that he was on a streak before he lost.
I think this is great because it's given him experience to get comfortable inside the UFC octagon.
He's got a very unique body type for bantamweight.
He does. And also, in his last fight, do you remember who he fought? He gave him. He was going to fight.
It was a late notice replacement that I don't remember his name because he was going to fight O'Malley. Yeah, which I guess would have been his step up in competition.
But anyway, in that last fight, the guy he was debuting against, he showed a lot of problems. Like he had Cheeto Vera hurt.
Definitely.
Yeah. So absolutely. I think it's a smart move. Get that experience and get comfortable. The big names will come, and you'll be prepared when you finally get the big name.
I agree. The only worry is that you don't want to get into that young veteranship scenario where, maybe your meteoric rise is stifled or your prime has been passed before you make it to that peak because you maybe take some fights that aren't great for you in your career at the time, Like how long did it take Jorge Masvidal to achieve the status that he achieved? With that fight anybody anywhere mentality, that young veteran, I'm in there for the experience mentality, It just sometimes it can sort of bite guys in the butt as far as their career goes. But again, in Jorge Masvidal, he's blown up. So.
Yeah, you never do know, right? Obviously, what comes with experience is confidence in anything, right? So fighting, work, anything. So, it could backfire on him or it could work for him. I don't know. But I personally...
Get that man a ranked opponent.
Yeah.
I think Nathaniel Wood was looking for it.
That'd be a good fight.
As far as I'm concerned, he's above Nathaniel Wood right now. As far as I'm concerned, that would be doing Nathaniel Wood a favor. Nathaniel Wood needs to get some bloody wins. If my man Cheeto Vera needs to win 5 in a row before he can even get someone like Nathaniel Wood, excuse me? Get Vera a ranked opponent. Nathaniel Wood, get in line, buddy. That's not going to work out for me. And talking about not working out, oh my goodness, Tim Elliott just could not make it work against Davison Figueiredo. what a bloody fight that was. And another case of why the frick is this flyweight fight so far down the card.
Yeah, that was an awesome fight. I was really impressed by the way Tim Elliott came out. I thought he was, on the way to winning the fight.
Get these boys on the main card.
Yeah, no, it was good. I truly think I think this is just what is actually happening now that it is on ESPN. They're just putting better fights on the prelims to, maybe get people tuning in a bit earlier. I think that's what it is. Because it has to be what it is, because the way things are laid out on these cards don't make the most sense.
Questionable,
but
sure.
It is. I'm okay with it, because I must say it adds a bit more excitement throughout the day and night of watching the fights.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I saw as Elliott was moving in and out of this, I saw impending doom for him. The way he was carrying himself with ducking out with his hands down, I saw Figueiredo uppercut coming miles away. Didn't end up coming, but Figueiredo grabs the guillotine on Elliott. Elliott starts shooting in from so far away. To me, it's Figueiredo's got to have this oh shit power. Gets hit by him a couple times. You go, I can't get hit by that again. I got to jump in from super far away. Very telegraphed shot. Figueiredo was able to lock in that guillotine and essentially put an end to him in the first round. Benavidez, teammate to Elliott, responds to Figueiredo's call out saying, yeah, let's get her done. If Cejudo's going to be out for a while and he's not even sure if he's going to come back down, absolutely I'll fight you for an interim or a vacant flyweight title.
I love it. And yeah, at this point, you know what? I would love to see Benavidez. I'd love to see him get his shot at the UFC title, flyweight title.
And especially, we talked about this with Johnny Munoz in our interview this week. It seems like Henry Cejudo is paying more attention to the women's flyweight division than to the men's flyweight division.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about him now. Not for good reason. I don't know if he plans on going to bantamweight or flyweight. He's doing this whole stint, so let him do that and give the guys who actually want to fight, give them the chance, especially the guys who've earned it. Benavidez, a legend. He's had his title fights. He's worked his way back up to getting into the title picture. He holds a win over Henry Cejudo. So that right there, I don't know how that doesn't motivate Henry. If you're a champ, you're going to want to beat the guy that beat you last.
Okay, well, a lot of people think Henry won that fight anyway, so to me that's a no-brainer.
That doesn't matter. A lot of people think you won that fight. You didn't win that fight. What do the history books say? Joseph Benavidez won that fight. If you were to ask Joseph Benavidez in person, he would say he won that fight. If you were to ask Henry Cejudo, he would say he won that fight. So, hey, let's figure it out. Lock those guys in the cage. Let's get it done. That's not going to happen. So let's see Figueiredo. There we go.
Almost.
Let's see him get. let's see him and Benavidez lock horns for that belt.
I'd say you might as well, especially it's so ironic to me that the savior of the bantamweight division is gonna never fight in it again, or savior of the flyweight division. I'm gonna save the flyweight division by never fighting in it again.
Exactly. He
did. The fights are still being booked. There was a while that those guys were getting cut. They were dropping like flies after a loss, and those fights were not being booked.
Yeah, I remember. You know that this fires me up. I don't like the whole act that's going on with the belts and how people handle themselves when they finally do win the belt. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm saying, from a fan and a sport perspective, let's keep the division going. Let's keep it moving. You're in the books as the flyweight and bantamweight champion. You're injured. Let's spread the love. Let's give the other guys a shot.
I couldn't agree more, honestly. You got to keep the division rolling. There's no point in keeping it around if it's not going to be kept rolling. And with an abundance of contenders like Figueiredo and Benavidez, I mean, this is an exciting division. It's growing every day. I don't understand why bury it on the prelims. Why is it being ignored by Cejudo? Are the money fights really that more money at bantamweight? It's hard to tell. To me, right now, Cejudo's the draw, and wherever he fights, the eyes are going to go. So I don't understand his trepidation. To me, it's just you just need to build other stars now with your star power.
You just need to fight. Yeah, that's what it is. You need to fight. You know what? You just need to fight. I'll watch. I love to watch it. It's just all these social media videos. You reminded me of a Vine guy, not a.
Okay. Can I say though, I did like the one where he's at the children's Let's Play play park, and he comes down the slide. And then there's all the kids there, and he takes their medals that they won from the ticket machines.
I hated it. You know what?
I thought it was kind of cute.
Henry, if you're a champ, get some kids that can actually act. What is this? What is this?
Yeah, at least Colby Covington's got an excuse for the actresses he gets.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't deliver a line. Okay. All right, we'll move on then to Devin Clark versus Ryan Spann. Does Spann have the cleanest boxing in the light heavyweight division, or does he need to fight Michael Oleksiejczuk first to see who the battle of the boxers?
Well, I don't think Michael Oleksiejczuk has the cleanest boxing in the division either. So
who's got the cleanest boxing in light heavyweight?
Not Michael Oleksiejczuk, I'll tell you that much.
Well, he definitely doesn't have the slickest Von Flue choke defense, but I think he's got the slickest boxing.
No, I don't know who has the slickest boxing. That guy lost his last fight, so I'm not going to give him that much credit. Gerber's a nice guy. I guess I'm not a nice guy. I honestly, that whole fight, man, it was confusing to me. I thought Ryan Spann was going to get the knockout. I didn't think it was going to be submission. Mm-hmm. He was kind of, to me at least, from what I saw, he's very promoted as this knockout guy, first round knockout. So it was good to see. It was a curveball for me because I really didn't know what to expect. And
well, that guillotine seems to come so naturally to someone his height. Right, the way he can just kind of stand up and lock it in.
Yeah,
he tried it earlier on in the fight. The way he slips in his counters, the way he slips in his hooks is super impressive to me, and I'm excited to see how he can use that length, which Michael Oleksiejczuk doesn't have. To me, someone who can use their length, someone who has length and can use it, is someone who's so potentially dangerous. It's not even funny, and I don't know. And so many people get so used to using their length that they won't get proper defense, but Spann has it. Spann has it. So not only do you have to get over the reach disadvantage, you have to get past his solid defense too. So many tall fighters just rely on the reach advantage, and they don't develop their defense. But I think Spann, when he does get against someone who's the same size as him, I don't think we're going to have these same difficulties that, say, like a Alexander Gustafsson or a John Jones had when they started facing people of the same height and reach parity to them.
He's going to be prepared for it.
I think so.
He's training with guys the right length, the right size to give him the proper looks to be prepared for his upcoming opponents.
But light heavyweight looking spicy lately.
It is, and I'm giving you crap for that Oleksiejczuk guy. Butchering the name once again.
I'll apologize. I'll eat crow on that.
But you know what? Let's see those guys fight, and
I'd love to see it. I think that's a great next fight too. Especially Oleksiejczuk coming off a loss, Spann coming off a win over another hot prospect in Devin Clark.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. And you know what? Even that Devin Clark guy, I'm excited to see his next fight.
Oh, I'm always excited. Yeah, Devin Clark to me seems like a definite prospect.
He just seems like he's just waiting to explode.
Yeah,
literally.
It seems like he's also waiting to round out his game a little bit more, because it seems like the takedown is a little bit too much of a known commodity with him, and he can't quite get people to respect his stand-up enough to forget about the takedown, forget about defending the takedown. Yeah. It's just sort of overhand to takedown.
Well, this is stance, right? Just his stance alone, you can see, hey, I'm going to throw a heavy shot at you, and I'm going to come in for your legs. Yeah. So, it'll be interesting, as experience, you learn.
How does he adapt, right?
Yeah, it'll be cool to see what he takes from this loss and what he works on.
Well, we've got a couple more fights we can talk about. I think I'd like to let you pick through them. We've got Alex Morono, the White Shark, versus Max Payne Griffin, which I heard you had some money on.
Yeah.
We had Eric Yaboy Anders versus Gerald Mearshart. And we have Marvin Vittori versus Andrew Sanchez. We had Matt the Steamroller Favola versus Violent Bob Ross.
All right.
And then, of course, we had friend of the show, Thomas Gifford.
Yeah.
Against Mike Davis in a...
we got to talk about that.
What do we say about that? We have to talk about it. I don't know what we're going to say about it, other than I think I understand the Quarterman's dilemma a little bit more in tune now that we have someone that we've talked to, developed a bit of a relationship with. Thomas Gifford, I thought, was a very intelligent, very nice guy. And to see him go through that, I wanted him to win so bad. I wanted him to come through with the comeback, and I was rooting for him so hard that I didn't even realize how much criticism the fight was getting until I checked afterwards. Where normally I'm in tune with the general zeitgeist of whether or not it's an early stoppage or a late stoppage. For this one, until he hit the canvas, it didn't register with me how bad it was.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll say this from my perspective. I was sitting there and I was like, "Oh, this is bad," but you got to think of it from, in a way, you have to think about it from the fighter's perspective, and how they're looking at how their coaches are looking at the situation, right?
And fathers
and their father, right? So obviously, we're not in the cage, we're not in the corner, we don't know, right? Thomas spent so long, working on his game, improving his skill set. And, he took a short notice fight with Mike Davis, who isn't no slouch, and he showed it. He's a technical striker, and he's got great power behind his hands. And, Davis took the short notice fight. That's fine. Thomas has been preparing months. He's been putting a lot of effort into this, and his coach and his family know this. So, you see all this ridicule online. And you know what? It happened. And Thomas took it like a warrior. He said he's okay. Yeah, and that's awesome to hear.
Great to hear.
He's good. But at the end of the day, it's something that these guys, they want to keep fighting, and sometimes they're too tough for their own good. But at the same time, if you stop that fight, they're gonna regret it for the rest of their life. Yeah. And their cornermen know that. Usually cornermen, they're ex-fighters, and they know that exact feeling. So yeah, they put him out there, and they kept him out there till the end, and that's their decision. And until there's some rule saying you have to stop it, it's their option, it's their opinion. The ref didn't jump in, which in my opinion, the ref should be taking more
accountability than the corner.
Yeah, exactly. I can understand it still. It's just, you got to put yourself in the fighter situation, and they're tough guys. They're never going to say, I'm going to, I want out, right? So
yeah, and I think, well, you know what? I think what I was, trying to get at originally is it's forever changed my perspective on stopping the fight as a cornerman, because, I was very vehemently on the side of, you have to look out for fighter safety. The second they look like they're not doing it, you need to step in and protect them if they're not going to be able to win that fight. And it changed my perspective because, we had just had a 20-minute interview with the guy, and that how much did that change the way we viewed, what was the events of the fight, right?
Yeah.
Imagine being this guy's coach and investing so much time and effort and game planning and belief in him. How would that skew your perspective of the way the fight's going, of how close he is to getting that Hail Mary guillotine?
Yeah.
Right? It was really transformative to my perspective, because I think I'm going to be a lot less quick to criticize these guys and I think demonize them. I think a lot of people get caught up in the cornerman gets a percentage of the winnings and you got to keep them out there. You never know when they're going to win. It's a financial thing. They want them out there because they want that win bonus. I don't think that's really the case.
No, yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the pride. That's what it is. As a team, the fighter's pride, just everything.
I think it's pride, and you don't want to feel like you let the guy down.
Exactly.
When he still believed in himself.
Exactly. And a guy like Thomas, he's been clipped before, and then he gets the submission win. He's been taken down and he submits the guy. So it is really unfortunate to see how it went, but I completely agree. Having that conversation with Johnny Munoz, it does show you, the perspective of the fighter and their team, Absolutely. How they look at the situation.
When I definitely don't think that was the near-death experience that people were making it out to be. I think some people look really good taking a punch, and sometimes when you have longer hair or a longer neck, the snaps look a little bit more violent. And, when you fall down bad, it's always going to look more brutal.
Exactly.
And that was a brutal fall.
And yeah, and you know what? And Thomas, he looked good for a while taking. He showed he has a great chin, an iron chin. He was the Terminator in there, eating shots for breakfast. He kept walking forward. He didn't care, right? He was in there to win, and he was in there. That's fighting. You get punched. He was fully aware of that. So at the end of the day, it comes down to the fighter and how they handle the situation, and Thomas truly handled this as a true champion and a true warrior.
Yeah, even his reaction after, I found inspiring.
Exactly.
He's not going to give up on anything. He's not going to turn this on his cornerman or on himself. He even said there was part of the game plans he didn't implement. I know we talked to him about, not being so reliant on your jiu-jitsu and so lackadaisical. To me, it seemed like he got rocked and his sense of urgency for getting the fight to the ground sort of disappeared. To me, this isn't the end of Thomas Gifford's story. I can't wait to see him again. Hopefully they give him another chance in the UFC. Yeah. I feel like, a late notice replacement fight is,
I believe they will.
I'd like to see the Brock Weaver fight.
Yeah, I would love to see the Brock Weaver fight. I personally think that Thomas Gifford shows just what type of fighter he is by staying on the card. There's a lot of guys that wouldn't have taken that fight with Mike Davis. There's a lot of guys. And same with Mike Davis. Thank you for stepping up, taking the fight 4 days notice. Mm-hmm. And congrats on getting the win. But for a guy like Thomas, it's his dream to be a UFC fighter, I'm sure. And he wants to get a win. He did the company a favor. There's lots of people that wanted to see him fight this weekend. And he did the promotion a favor by staying on the card. So,
I agree.
So thank you, Thomas, for doing that.
Thank you, Thomas. And the sacrifice these guys go through, it can't be understated.
Exactly. So yeah, thanks, Thomas, and we hope you get better soon, buddy.
Yeah, and we're gonna, of course, Throwin Bones podcast keeps their support straight behind Thomas Gifford. We're never gonna stop supporting this guy wherever he goes. He's a great guy, very nice, very intelligent guy, and even if you're not necessarily a religious person, I feel like the way he thinks about it and the way he expresses it, I think it's poignant enough that we can all respect what he's doing, even if you don't necessarily agree with his religious beliefs. I find him a very admirable person.
For sure. He's a great role model, for sure.
Is there anything else you want to mention? I mean, like we said, we got Frivola over Pena. Everyone knows my opinion on Pena.
Yeah,
disinterested.
I don't have too much to say, other than that was a good fight. Frivola is an animal.
He's a tank.
He is an animal. I love that fight.
A true Matt Serra disciple.
He's a true underdog. That's what he is. He walks to that cage. Not the most athletic looking guy. He looks like he can walk through a couple punches, and he can. He can walk through a couple flying knees if that's the case.
Outsized most of the time.
Yeah.
Unlike Luis Pena, who needs to fight 3 weight classes below where he should be.
Yeah, I like Luis Pena, so. But, hey, I like Luis Pena.
He's got a great nickname. Why wouldn't you?
Violent Bob Ross. But no, Matt Frivola, the steamroller. There's nothing much else to say other than keep steamrolling and getting those wins, bro. Because that was awesome.
We got that split decision. Eric, your boy Anders comes back against Gerald Meerschaert. I think Anders looks his best at middleweight. If I was his manager, I would encourage him to just stay at middleweight.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Honestly.
I think he's too outsized for light heavyweight.
No, and he looks good at the weight, and that was a good performance.
Beat a very legit guy in Gerald Meerschaert, who's been climbing the ranks recently.
That was a great performance by him. It was truly the matchup of experience versus less experienced, and Eric Anders showed, he proved me wrong. The less experienced guy prevailed to win, so it's good on you, boy. I love watching Eric fight. It was awesome, and I'll continue to tune in to watch him fight.
Like you said, experience versus less experience. Another reason as to just why athleticism is cheating, essentially.
I guess so. Hey, yeah, your boy's a stud, man. That guy has power, and I just love to watch him fight. Honestly.
Speaking of athleticism is cheating, Vettori versus Sanchez was a great scrap. Vettori seems to be back at it after his tainted supplement suspension. Do you see him climbing that middleweight ladder all the way to the top and getting that rematch against Israel Adesanya?
I don't.
No,
I don't. We'll see what happens in his next fight.
To me, he's got a real. To me, I see the potential, but he's got a real gas problem. He's always huffing and puffing by the second round.
So he sees the potential, but he can't even fight a 3-round fight without getting tired.
Well, that's fair. Well, hey, do you know who else had a lot of potential but couldn't fight a 3-round fight in 2015?
Who?
Amanda Nunes.
Yeah.
Remember? She had her cardio issues. That was her big question against most of her opponents is she going to be able to put them away before she runs out of gas?
Yeah, I guess. But
she worked on her cardio, and now she's one of the greatest fighters on the planet.
Yeah, there's that. But I just think Marvin Vettori and Amanda Nunes is a big stretch between their stories.
I mean, you never know.
Yeah, no, the sport, you never know. So, prove me wrong.
Who else? Morono versus Griffin was fantastic. I don't know how Griffin survived the end of round 2. I also don't know how he's going to keep climbing these ranks after the string of losses that he's gone through.
And you know
Especially
what?
after outboxing Mike Perry, I thought the ceiling would be a lot higher.
I disagree with the decision too. So, personally, I know lots of people thought. I think
most of it revolved around Griffin almost being finished at the end of round 2.
That's what won him the fight. But I just think you have 3 rounds in a fight. I had it tied up going into the third. He did enough to win the third round, and especially
tied up going in, is the second round a 10-8 for you?
It's tough. It was a close
because
fight.
that changes everything. Right?
It was a really it was besides from that knockdown.
Yeah.
That was what won him that round. So I can understand. That's what I thought. That was a 10-8.
Because I thought you could have stopped it in that exchange. Honestly, at some point.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda, but didn't.
Well,
there's a lot of shoulda, woulda, couldas today. It didn't
kidding.
ever happen. But yeah, I don't know. He won the fight, and yeah, once again, I'm learning more and more, and still don't understand the judging of MMA.
I think we need to have a judging debate one of these days on here, because we almost got into one time. I think it'd be a decent discussion.
It won't be a discussion. I think they just need to have something that's set out, because literally, if you land more strikes in a round and then you mix in some grappling, who wins? They never call it the same. Even later on that night, they had similar situations, but they gave it to the other guy. So all I want is a little bit more of a clear set guidelines to the judging of the fights.
Okay.
Especially being a betting man, okay? Especially being a betting man.
You know what? I don't even care, except I keep putting money on these fucking things.
Especially being a betting man. I want to know. Because there's some close calls, and then there's just, you never know. Like even the Felder-Barboza decision going back. It's just...
Yeah? Is that questionable for you?
Yeah. But not for me necessarily.
Okay.
But for lots of people.
Okay. Yeah,
you go on the social media, you start seeing these little discussions on the comments, and
well, to me, I feel like a lot of where the hang up comes from is a lot of people equate the stats and the numbers of the significant strikes and the strikes to what effective striking is. You know?
And that's why, from me being at home, right, I would love to see an effective striking, some kind of measurement come up, right? They come up with, sometimes it's always different if it's total strikes, body shots, landed leg kicks. You never know. Mm-hmm. So it'd just be cool to kind of have a little bit more of a scoreboard. I know that's not something we're used to seeing, but as the sport does grow, I think that would be something cool to implement for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting concept. All right. I think we're going to roll into news now. I think we spent more than enough time breaking down these fights. A lot happened, but I think we're going to probably run through news real quick, and then we'll get to next week's card, which thankfully there's some stuff going on, but it's not a whole lot in Boston.
I'm excited for this
If I lived in Boston, I'd be there, but the depth doesn't really run past the main card. Fair to say?
That's fair. Sometimes those are the best ones, though.
Absolutely. There's some dudes I know, and there's probably some great scraps that are going to be going on, but that's not what sells tickets. Doesn't put butts in seats.
Yeah. That's fair. I know you're a big fan of the trash talking, like Kobe Covingtons and the Henry Cejudos. So, no, I'm just joking, but we'll be right back. We'll be getting into the news here and break down UFC Boston for you guys.
Yep. All right, and we're back taking on the news for this week. Not a lot going on this week, Kyle. We'll kind of breeze through it. There's so much fight talk, and we already did an interview tonight. Pulling back the curtain. We already did a full hour interview with King of the Cage bantamweight champion Johnny Munoz. Keep your eye out for that exclusive interview coming soon. So let's just talk sort of more relaxed this week about the news. Doo Ho Choi called out Cub Swanson for the rematch. We covered that already. Kamaru Usman is bitter over the BMF belt. What else is new? I don't get how do you make yourself the victim in this, the way Kamaru Usman has, talking about how, you got over 20 losses combined. You're not bad MFers. He's got such a problem with this, and to me it just seems so jealous, because it's like, bro, if you were the champ, think of the disrespect. If you were the champion of a division, okay, and your fight, not only your fighting style, but interest in your upcoming fight is so lackluster that they've created a fake belt in your division that people are exponentially more interested in watching? Between two people who even you yourself are calling journeymen.
So what I'm going to say first here is that this sounds like you don't like Kamaru Usman.
I've gone on
like you've said many times,
long tangents about how I do not appreciate his fighting style. Yeah,
you know what? Yeah, and I really know you don't like his fighting style. And me personally, I don't like the Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, whatever. But that being said, I completely understand Usman's stance on this. If you were the UFC welterweight champion and Nate Diaz came back and beat Anthony Pettis, okay? Picture up how Kamaru Usman... how Kamaru Usman matches up with Anthony Pettis and how that fight would go.
Oh, yeah. Okay? Well, hey, do you know what, though? Like, probably would do less damage than Diaz.
I disagree.
I'd say more dominant would be a more dominant performance. I think Pettis would go out dancing.
Probably. He would get the finish. He would get the finish, I believe. He might go out dancing, but he would get the finish. So from his stance, he's sitting there saying, "Hey, I would beat both these guys easily." Mm-hmm. That's his stance on this.
But no one cares.
And you guys are making some BMF belt for two guys that I would whoop. That's what he's saying. Yeah. And you know what? I'm cool with the BMF belt and all, but that being said, Usman does have a point. So I respect his stance on that.
I respect his stance, but to me it's like...
I don't think it's bitching. I don't think it's complaining.
I agree, but it's like, you're looking everywhere except in the mirror, dog. You're looking everywhere except in the mirror for this. And this is not a thing in any other division. Not because there's no other guys who are BMFs in any other division. You could easily see Jeremy Stevens fighting for a BMF title. You could see Cowboy fighting for a BMF title. Like, geez, like even from this weekend, there's people you could put in that category. Eric Anders fits the category for that, like 100%. It's an exciting title level fight because the already title level fight that's happening in that division, nobody's interested in watching. It's the B-side to, let alone is it the B-side to Holloway Volkanovski? It's the bloody B-side to Nunes Durandamy.
What's the main event? And actually, that's your opinion, bro. That is completely your opinion.
100%. Nunes versus Durandamy will be a more exciting fight than Usman versus Covington.
Disagree.
I guarantee
I absolutely disagree with you.
Someone in Usman versus Covington, someone is going to win the wrestling dominance battle early on in the fight, and that's how the rest of the fight's going to go.
I will always say this. In Usman's last fight, I really enjoyed his last performance, and I enjoyed watching him fight. You did not enjoy watching him fight, the worst. Which is fine. But in my opinion, I liked watching his fight. So, from my stance, I guess I'm an Usman fan.
I don't even know who you are anymore.
I guess I'm an Usman fan.
I don't even know who you are anymore.
I would love, you know what? I would love to see, after this whole Nate Diaz Jorge Masvidal plays out, I would love to see how the Usman fight goes.
Okay. What do you think of Colby Covington's fighting style? Forget the shtick, forget the gimmick, forget all of that. What do you think of him as a fighter? Entertainment value.
I don't like watching Colby Covington fight at all. But
to me, it's the same style.
It's not. I think watching Usman fight, you see complete dominance. It's like a welterweight version. Don't get me wrong, there's not as vicious as ground and pound we've seen yet. He just got the belt. Mm-hmm. But I think he is a problem in that division. We've seen him at 30%. We've seen him at 80%. What if we see him at 100%, Adam?
Well, then he might just go for a shot to the head or try a submission. But he might just try a submission.
You know what?
He's dominating the fight for the whole time.
We'll see.
He's the Valentina Shevchenko.
He's the Nigerian nightmare.
Welterweight.
He's the Nigerian nightmare, and I'm sure. And I dislike Colby Covington, so I'm rooting for Usman in this one. And I think it's going to be a very exciting finish for Kamaru Usman.
I'm 100% rooting for Colby Covington in this fight because if the fight's gonna be boring, at least I get to enjoy the shitstorm if Covington wins.
That's brutal. See, I'd recommend a WWE subscription. I think it's $9.99 for the month.
Well, hey man, I would just as soon have these people not at the top. You know me, like I would rather have anyone else fighting for a belt. It depresses me that their style is so dominant because it is like watching flies fuck. It is the worst. And that's what the fight's going to be. It's going to be two flies fucking. Colby Covington's going to do all his striking on the feet. As soon as he engages the grappling, he just locks his hands and holds on for dear life. Kamaru Usman does almost no striking on the feet. As soon as he engages, he holds position and throws pitter-patter punches so the ref doesn't break him up. That's all.
I cannot believe that you're still calling the punches, the body shots he was landing on Woodley in that fight were nasty. Were nasty. No, he didn't. He didn't stop it. He whooped his ass for 5 rounds. And you also don't like Woodley. So
I
really,
also don't like
you
Woodley,
have a very unfiltered opinion because I don't know what it is. Maybe it's their skin color.
Try to...
No, I'm just kidding. But no, I really do not know. You don't like wrestling. You don't like wrestling.
I do like wrestling.
You don't like jiu-jitsu.
Well, whoa. Anyone who listens to the show
you're
knows
just
that's not true.
You're a pure boxing and kickboxing guy,
true.
it sounds like.
I am a pure MMA guy who likes to watch people fight for a finish and doesn't like to watch people take advantage of the point scoring system to win something that doesn't, to me, simulate a real fight. Because to me, you don't win that fight, and to me, it's like people go, go watch kickboxing if you don't like that. They can't do that in wrestling either. If you hold a position for that long in the type of wrestling that Usman did, you get called for stalling. You get penalized for stalling if you hold the position for more than 5 seconds without trying to advance. I like watching action. I like people watching advanced position, and I like watching people go for a finish. That's it. And they don't. They sit on the guy and they wait for 20 minutes until the timer's done.
I've seen you cheer. I've seen you cheer for people that aren't going for the finish. I've seen you cheer for a guy, laying on top.
Well, that's because I'm rooting for him for another reason. These guys, other than their fight style, their personality, there's nothing appealing either. There's nothing appealing about these people.
Both there, don't get me wrong. Yeah, their personality, that's not what gets me. But you know what? Kamaru Usman, I don't care. He's got the Yoel Romero effect. He looks like a superhero. Yeah, he looks good with his shirt off. I don't care. I'll go there. And that's why I tune in to watch. Okay, I might be a bit biased because I might just watch for that. And I don't care. Okay? I don't care.
The natty Nigerian. That's what you tune in for.
All right, the truth comes out. Can we move on?
Yes, we can. If I think we've spent more than enough time.
Let's leave it there.
Okay, Cain Velasquez is leaving the UFC, signing with the WWE. How the hell can his body handle that? If it can't handle, falling down one time, how can he handle the double backflip hurricane?
Needles and glutes.
I want to see a juiced up.
Yeah,
Cain.
I'm honestly, I hate to say it. I never thought I'd say this, but I would love to see Cain Velasquez on steroids.
Tons of steroids.
Lots of steroids.
All of the steroids.
Send him to Russia. Send him
around the world from Russia to Mexico to China and back, all the way around. Find all the supplements.
Yeah, I want to see the first Mexican Bigfoot. That's what I want to see.
Not bad. Do you think that they're gonna have him go? Did you see the little clip of him in WWE?
Yeah.
His little intro where he sort of walks down to the cage.
Is it weird I cried? Is it weird that I teared up while watching that?
Yeah, can you want to give us an insight into why exactly?
It's just such a just watching him being able to jump in from pro martial arts just to be able to become a WWE superstar, and especially in that time frame, it's certainly mind-blowing, and it just shows how much dedication and what a will Cain Velasquez has. It was truly amazing. It gets me.
Okay. Well,
it gets me, man. You laugh. It motivates me.
I'm so sorry.
Inspiring.
I'm just happy that he's able to do something, because obviously MMA wasn't going to work out with him with his body breaking down and all those injuries. I'm just so happy that he can excel at something because he's such an obvious physical talent. I'm glad that. Well, I wish he would have left a little earlier, to be honest, because he kind of stifled DC's career a little bit with not being able to move up, and now it's like he kind of wasted it all.
Yeah. We could have had DC Stipe 3 already.
Exactly. We could have had DC Ngannou.
It's cool to see that he moved up and everything. But it would be interesting to see kind of how his body does handle that training, because pro wrestling, it's very hard. Yeah,
that's what made me think. I was like, this guy's had nothing but back problems.
Yeah,
and knee problems.
Yeah,
like that's kind of the bane of the wrestler, the professional wrestler. It's back problems and knee problems.
Yeah,
and opiate addiction. Yeah.
I just wondering, because he's Mexican, are we going to see like a Rey Mysterio type of wrestling style?
Well, he was doing the luchador. Yeah. Have you seen him do the Hurricana?
Yes.
He grabs the dude around the neck with his ankles and throws him to the...
Crazy.
Crazy. A couple backflips in between.
Yeah.
I don't believe...
It's like... Stunt double.
You'd think so, but he's got the Brown Pride tattoo across his chest.
That's just it. How easy is that for Cain Velasquez? Put on a mask... Send some stunt double out. Brown Pride tattoo.
You just write Brown Pride on his chest in a Sharpie.
There you go. You got a WWE superstar.
And he's just in the back eating popcorn, getting paid.
Yeah, and then when it's time to run the mic, he comes out. Let's go, damn real Kane comes out.
Didn't even think about that. That's
probably
crazy. How they have
We're
it.
We're cracking the code here.
Speaking of cracking, Santiago Ponzinibbio. He's got a nasty staph infection, and he's out versus Robbie Lawler at UFC 245.
Very, very sad.
Do you know who wants to step in, though, and face him?
Mike Perry.
Yeah, probably, but Mike Perry's insane, and he needs to let his nose heal before he comes the second coming of Rory McDonald. So instead, Jeff Neal offers to step in.
I like that.
More interested in that than Mike Perry.
I like that.
I think Jeff Neal deserves this step up in competition.
I really do think he's earned the right to get that fight, 100%. I saw his last fight against Nico Price. It was violent, and it was artistic, and it was
so technically
beautiful.
Clean.
It was awesome. Yeah, even in the chaotic moment, the technique was there, and that's awesome to see.
He's so impressive.
So Jeff Neal versus Robbie Lawler. Let's stamp that one early.
Do you know what I really like about Jeff Neal?
What?
Is that even though he doesn't always necessarily have the greatest urgency, and even though he doesn't necessarily dominate every second of the fight, he's still very technically clean, and he goes for the finish.
Oh, yeah?
Which is, something missing in the welterweight division.
Sounds like Kamaru Usman.
Sounds like Bizarro Usman. Okay. Kai Asakura destroys Ulka Sasaki's chin. The Asakura brothers taking over Japanese MMA, sort of like the Japanese Diaz brothers at this point, with some legit punching power. Only hit Ulka Sasaki 3 or 4 times in the first minute of the fight, broke his jaw in multiple places, and this is Kai Asakura coming off of the first round knockout of Kyoji Horiguchi. So these are some of the greatest bantamweight talents that Ryzen has to offer, and he's absolutely melting through these guys in the first round.
Heavy hands.
Heavy hands.
Yeah.
This could easily be... These guys could easily work their way up to be considered the best in the world at that weight class. Because for a long time, Kyoji Horiguchi was sort of the odd man out. Everyone thought, if Horiguchi comes back and fights Demetrius Johnson, it'll be a totally different story.
Yeah.
Kyoji Horiguchi's sort of been the greatest flyweight outside of the UFC for a long time. I guess it's sort of different now that Demetrius Johnson has left. But to go in and get starched like that, and to have another high-profile flyweight like Ulka Sasaki hit the same, demise, essentially, could this be a contender for that, greatest fighter in the world?
It could be, for sure. And it's just one of those things we get to see. We get to watch it happen now.
Yeah, I feel like the farther down in weight class you go, the more diversity there is across promotions in talent.
Because it's always more technical down.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure the UFC has the best heavyweight. I'm pretty sure they got the best light heavyweight. Almost positive they got the best middleweight, welterweight, lightweight, featherweight even, I'd say.
Yeah.
But once you get to bantamweight and flyweight, then they're mixed around a little bit. Exactly. The UFC sort of dropped a ball with some of those signings, and like we said, they seem to be purging those divisions for a little bit and then went back on their decision.
Yeah. And they're the smaller guys, there's so much talent out there still that we haven't seen, and that's also just why the UFC should be keeping around this division, right? is it's like there's so much talent. Like, sorry, you're gonna have to say the name for me.
Figueiredo from earlier.
No,
Asakura.
Yeah, Asakura. Like these guys, I personally haven't seen their work yet, but you damn well right. I'm gonna go on Google right now and I'm gonna search up the knockouts. So we'll see what happens here.
Watch them after.
Yeah.
Speaking of knockouts and scuffles and street brawls, Ali Abdelaziz getting in it with multiple people at the latest PFL event. Not only getting in a fight with Anthony Pettis and the Pettis brothers, smacking Abe Kawa, the competing manager of First Round Management, right upside the head from behind. What's going on? What's going on with this guy? Manager to your beloved Kamaru Usman.
Yeah. You know what? Ali Abdelaziz, this isn't the first time I've seen his name pop up. His name pops up a lot for a manager. And
far too much, some would say.
Yeah, and for all the wrong reasons. I actually saw an interview of TMZ, and it was him, Kamaru, like Henry Cejudo, right? And he said how MMA, that career didn't work out for him. Blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So, one question for you. Why the hell are you out picking fights at MMA events? You're acting like a clown. You're a manager. You're a businessman. You don't go around smacking people. You don't talk trash to the fighters. You're not a fighter. You're a businessman.
Well, and this is what really pisses me off about is you're going around picking fights with professional fighters. And if one of them were to just finally give him what he's asking for and hand him his ass, he'd be filing a lawsuit before the end of the night.
Yeah, chin to chin, drinking out of his straw for the next 3 months, probably. I mean, he's not a fighter; he's a manager. So it just pisses me off to see him doing this dumb stuff. You know what I mean? It's annoying.
So antagonistic and so unnecessary.
Exactly.
And just putting the entire sport in a bad light, especially like him. Like, how is he gonna be criticizing McGregor and stuff lately?
Exactly.
He's doing shit like that. Like, you're the same asshole.
The two names that pop up the most and are the most irrelevant names, Conor McGregor and Ali Abdelaziz. And they're just irrelevant now because they pop up for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, pretty much. If you want to look up, pub incident.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? It just, there comes a time where it's just, I hate to say it, but grow up. Grow up.
We can go two ways here. Do you want to talk about DJ winning the one tournament? Or do you want to talk about Conor's pub incident / more sexual assault allegations / should we even be booking this guy for fights or talking about putting him in fights anymore? Should it just be Poirier versus Gaethje 2, throw Hooker in there with Felder, and move on with the division? Should we even be waiting on this guy to come back and fight either Poirier or Gaethje?
We shouldn't be waiting for this guy to come back. We've heard way too much. He's always being talked about. I don't even really want to shine too much light on it at this point.
Well, at this point, as a promoter, I wouldn't be confident booking him for a fight.
Yeah, it's...
Because who knows, you're going to get some charges, you're going to have a court date set for when the fight's happening. I wouldn't be confident booking him for a fight the same way I wouldn't be confident booking Jones for a fight in the middle of his USADA scandal.
So just based off that, no, as a promoter, I wouldn't want to be booking him in a fight. And I actually saw Max Holloway tweeted out to McGregor. What McGregor accomplished in 12 months was awesome. But, he's not in that same mindset anymore. Yeah. And I don't want to fight him when he's off thinking about other things. Like, I want to fight the best. And that shows someone who's truly at their peak compared to somebody who was at their peak, seen all the glory, and, has had the taste of the glory. So coming back from that, a guy like Max Holloway, he's like, man, you're not even on my level. Mm-hmm. Like, you have more money in your bank account. You're not on my level skill-wise. So
it seemed like McGregor wasn't interested necessarily in a comeback until stuff like that started being said. Until people didn't care, until he wasn't relevant anymore, and until people weren't calling him out anymore. Yeah,
because he wants to be the man. That's it, right? He wants to be the man still. He's still young. I'm sure he could still fight, but at this point, you've had the $100 million taste. You're set. So it's like going and fighting a hungry Khabib or a hungry Max Holloway or Dustin Poirier. They're gonna give you a taste.
If he's gonna come back and win a belt and fuck off again, I'm not interested in never seeing him fight again.
No, exactly. And you know me, I'm a huge McGregor fan.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, he brought both of us into this sport in a big way. A lot of people like to act like they weren't huge fucking McGregor fans when it was happening. We were.
Yeah, no.
We absolutely were.
I loved it. Loved it. So, at this point and where we are right now, I would just like to see, focus on the people doing right for the sport. Focus on the DCs, the Stipes, the Justin Gaethjes, and, stop giving the spotlight to the Floyd Mayweather of MMA, McGregor. You know what I mean? That's what he turned into.
How depressing is that?
It sucks,
And it sucks because he's not even turning into the Floyd Mayweather, because it's like Floyd Mayweather was a neutral figure that became obsessed with that stuff. McGregor seemed like, at least for the first while, a paragon of, motivation and self-belief and believing, I said self-belief, but actually
law
achieving,
of attraction.
Yeah, law of attraction and following your dreams, and believing in yourself to the extent that you'll make something happen.
Yeah,
that you'll put the effort in.
Yeah.
And to me, he had such a good message and such an inspiring rise to the top that for what he's done lately, it seems like he's just sort of shat all over that. He had the beginning of what could have been such an amazing legacy, and he just threw it away. Like the Muhammad Ali comparisons were absolutely there for a while.
Yeah.
And you're right, he just turned into the complete Floyd Mayweather. Well, and it's sad.
It's funny because this used to be my screensaver on my phone. It was McGregor with the Irish flag, and it was partying is weakness for the soul. Conor McGregor.
There you go.
So you know what? Now we see where he's at in his life. So you know what? I hope one day stuff gets cleared up, but until then, let's just focus on the guys that are actually bringing meaning to the sport.
I'd say that. I'd say that we can make that official on this show. Are we done talking about him now until there's fight news?
Exactly.
I don't care if there's another 6 domestic disputes, if there's another 6 sexual assaults, if there's 7 more pub incidents. I'm not talking about it unless he gets convicted of something.
Yeah. It's gotta be big news. If Throwin Bones MMA will not be talking about it.
Yeah, because like you said, I'm sick of giving the guy airtime for this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's not doing the stuff that he used to do.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. Right?
It's cheap. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll put our stamp on it there. No more Conor McGregor talk until he pulls his head out of his ass. Okay, we got one more thing to talk about as far as news goes. Aspen Ladd is going to appeal her 16-second loss. TKO loss to Jermaine Durandamy from UFC Sacramento. What do you think about this decision?
I think that's stupid.
Do you think it's stupid because no one ever gets it repealed, or do you think the stoppage was fine? Because to me, I agree with her. I think that stoppage was bogus.
I think 1 and 2, honestly. I think that that stoppage, it was a bit early, but at the same time, she put herself in that situation.
I get.
You're looking back.
Get caught with one punch.
But wait a sec. You're looking back. That's the sport, though. One punch changes everything. And then this is also the other problem, right? It's like that ref doesn't jump in. She eats a couple more shots, and then the debate's there. It's a late stoppage, right?
So to me, you watch it. She eats one. She goes down. People say, you go down forward, it's worse, right? That's sort of the general. If you go down if you fall forward instead of backwards, it's like a worse.
Like harder to recover.
KO. Yeah, that's sort of what Big John McCarthy has said. That's what he looks for. Like a falling forward knockout is more severe than a falling on your butt knockout. And so I think...
I disagree with that because it's balance. That's what happens, right? When you get knocked down, you're getting punched, and then it's kind of how your body reacts to the jerk. If you're kind of stepping forward, you fall flat.
Well, to me, that was always with the caveat of because they don't catch themselves. To me, it's worse to fall on your. To me, it's worse to fall on your face and not catch yourself than it is to fall on your butt and not catch yourself. Falling on your butt and not catching yourself.
Unless your head snaps.
Right, it's more natural. But that's not what happened. She caught her. She fell face first, of course, but she caught herself on the way down, which to me screams, I'm lucid, I'm here. Right? You don't catch yourself if you're knocked out. And then Jermaine Durandamy followed up, punched her in the chest, and the fight was stopped.
Yeah.
To me, if anything was egregious, that is. Otherwise, let's just stop the fight every time someone gets dropped now. Every time someone gets dropped, wave it off.
To be honest, it's one of those things I don't think it's going to get overturned. So I have a hard time, me making that argument, because it's like, you know what? you're losing your O.
Yep.
I know that's like, can imagine that sucks, but also it's like you did get dropped. You did get clipped. You might have been okay or whatever. The ref messed up. I just think it's better to move forward than to look back. Because what happens if you appeal that decision and then you get knocked out again?
That's fair. I mean, to me, raising awareness about it, the more people report it, the more people are going to look at this and say, you know, maybe we do need to revamp it, or at least, you know, keep it in the news cycle. Keep people talking about it, because even if it is, you know, just losing the O, it's more than that. That was a title contention fight that fucked up her career. Like, it really did. And at least remind people, you know? At least remind people that loss has a little asterisk next to it. So I respect what she's doing.
You know, that's fine, yeah, and I can understand it. She's a competitor. She wants to be undefeated, right? And like you said, that was, like, Randa Randomy's fighting for the title now. So obviously that was a big fight, and it did cost her. I just think, you know, putting all that time and energy into focusing on getting that overturned, when, you know, you could just, you know, move forward, you know, hey, I was okay. That the ref stopped it early. I was okay. Come back and just show us that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I can understand both sides. It's just, I have a hard time seeing it getting overturned, right?
What do you think of people bringing in the fact that she had a rough weight cut into that? Because to me, that shouldn't be a factor at all. To me, if you're going to start factoring in shit that's happening fight week into you stopping the fight, that is stupid. It is stupid, right? But it's dumb. You know what? Actually, this brings me to a question I had for you. What do you think about men refereeing women's MMA fights? What is there to think about it? Like,
well, I heard them talking about this on Unfiltered. So basically, you know, as a guy, you know, sometimes it's just in our, like, well-being, you know, to look out for the women, right?
I see what you mean.
So like, having a perspective, watching, you know, a woman get pounded on, right, compared to even watching like a dude get punched.
Okay.
You might have a bit of different reaction. Have you ever thought anything about that, or?
So sort of like when you hear like people like Brendan Schaub have talked about when female fighting was first introduced, you know, they didn't want to watch it because you're watching a girl get the shit kicked out of her, right? That's tough, I guess.
Because that's the whole, like, who knows? Right?
That is it, but that it's a legitimate question, but it's also, you know, if you're going to ask that question, where do you stop? You know, are you going to, you know, can you have a black refereeing a black guy fighting? Exactly. Is he going to have more sympathy for the person who's a member of his race? You know, is he going to vicariously be, you know, is he going to be easier for him to impose his own perspective on someone who shares a racial background with him? You know, I don't know exactly where that stops, but to me, if there's a male referee, okay, and he is more, let's say, vulnerable to calling off a fight earlier because he doesn't want to see the women take the damage, he's still reffing two women. Those women are taking equal amounts of damage, right? And he's not going to make a biased decision that's going to affect those two fighters. You know, it's not like it's a man facing a woman, so the man has to do less damage before the fight stop type of thing. I think it's fine, and it's just like other referees. You know, some referees are going to let it go a little bit longer, the Yamasakis and the Mazagatis of the world, and some referees are just gonna call it faster and just you know, I would like the Jason Herzogs. He calls a quick stoppage. I'm okay with that, and you know,
but he's consistent.
He's consistent. That's what's the key to me: consistency. Even let's say you are a horribly sexist person who always steps in earlier and stops the women's fights earlier than the men's fights. To me, that's a problem. But as long as you're consistently stopping the women's fights at the same time and they know what to expect going in, it's not that much of a problem. It would be really hard to weed out sexism like that.
Yeah, no, it would be. And yeah. I just heard that on UFC Unfiltered, so I just thought I'd ask you, because I never really thought about that. And, it could play a factor, and I'm sure it doesn't, don't get me wrong, but,
it could.
Whenever, I started thinking about it, I was like, that's true, you see two chicks fighting on the street, I don't know if it's me, but lots of time I'm like, stop this. You guys are pulling each other's hair. Yeah,
it's more like that.
This is vicious.
Stop pulling her hair.
Yeah, this is vicious. And then you'll see two guys fight, and you're like, hey, I'm going to film this. So, But yeah, I just thought I'd ask.
I film it either way.
Yeah, and but yeah, this Aspen Ladd thing, we'll see what happens. I also heard Lima is actually going to be trying to overturn his decision from the other weekend.
Diego?
Yeah. Because one of the judges gave it to Jamo.
Yeah.
So he's actually trying to get that overturned too. But
yeah, because didn't he win against Jamo?
He did win, but one of the refs saw it for Jamo.
Okay.
So he wants.
He doesn't want it to be a split. He wants
exactly.
See, to me, that is pointless.
That is stupid. But you know what? We're getting into this discussion. The reason why he's doing this is so MMA's judging doesn't turn into boxing.
Right, because we've had that. We had that conversation earlier about
exactly.
About
so you know what?
The judging. It's all about accountability.
At the end of the day, I like that because he's just saying, "Where's the consistency here?"
I'm always about more consistency and accountability,
exactly. Especially in sports, right? So
yeah. Excellent, especially one where people are risking this much. Oh my gosh, that went way too long.
Again.
We'll come back with hopefully an actually quick segment, not like the way we lied to you last time before this news here. But I think great episode so far this week.
Yeah, I think this is going good so far.
So it's good stuff, and we got that interview with Johnny Munoz, so stay tuned, you guys. All right, we're back for our last segment of the week. We're on 2x speed, and we're going to run through this real quick. It's UFC Boston, headlined by
Chris Weidman, Dominic Reyes.
Absolutely. Co-mained by Ye Rodriguez versus Jeremy Stevens. We got our girl, Jillian Robertson, on the card versus Macy Barber, which is a spicy banger. And then we got Deron Wynn coming in and testing his wrestling chops against Darren the Dentist Stewart.
Ooh.
Always a fun banger. Let's jump into this really quick. Right off the bat, Kyle, Weidman versus Reyes. What are your initial opinions?
You know what? I'm going to go with a bold prediction here. I think Reyes, he's going to be around in the light heavyweight division for a while, and he's going to have to take a back step here this weekend because I believe Chris Weidman not cutting that weight. He's going to come in with the extra size, and he is going to out-wrestle Dominic Reyes and get the win this weekend. And call me crazy. I'm going all the way. I'm going third round submission.
Ooh, there we go. So what do you think, what made you make that distinction for Reyes that he's not going to be able to handle the wrestling of Weidman?
So, in the Ozdemir fight, he had a problem with the grappling. I don't know if it is because Ozdemir's a knockout guy. He threw him off guard. I think the problem this weekend's going to be Weidman's going to be coming in with those hands. He's going to get him to the ground, and he's going to take his gas tank from him slowly. His experience in the 5-round fights is going to pay off, and he's going to get the win. You heard it here first. Adam, how do you see this fight playing out?
I see Weidman pretty much winning the whole fight and then probably getting knocked out in the last minute of the last round.
I don't know where you'd get that
well,
prediction
just from his last couple outings. But
yeah, you know, he was winning.
Romero, Souza, Rockhold.
The Rockhold fight was tough. I mean, the spinning wheel kick. No spinning kicks this weekend, I hope. But I'm really rooting for my guy, Chris Weidman, this weekend. Third round submission. You're laughing.
I'm smiling because I just realized that I should absolutely be picking Weidman for this fight, but I can't.
Why?
Because my gut's just telling me he's not gonna win.
That's fair.
Like I think I'm gonna go Reyes. I mean, I sarcastically said, like, at the end of the fight. I don't know if he'll be able to last that long, to be honest. I think Reyes might get it done early.
Yeah.
I think just because I think Reyes has the power, Reyes has the speed, and as Weidman's first jump up to 205, there is going to be some adjusting for him to do. I think Luke Rockhold looked like he expected to be a lot stronger than he ended up being after moving up to 205. He got not necessarily manhandled, but he wasn't able to use his grappling the same way that he expected.
Well, he wasn't able to use his grappling at all.
At all.
But also,
which makes me worried for Weidman.
Luke Rockhold has had the problem of coming in confident and getting clipped.
Absolutely.
So, Weidman, yes, he's been finished in his last couple fights. But I think according to game plan and fight IQ, I think Weidman's going to... And you know what? Even just grit and toughness. Weidman has more in him, and I think he's going to show the world
I think he does, and I think he knows it a little bit too much. Because to me, the same way Rockhold comes in overconfident, Weidman comes in too willing to trade. I think not too confident, but not even reliant. I'd say too aware of his grittiness and his toughness. He knows that he can take a couple shots, and he needs to act like he can't.
And,
he's been really trading at boxing range lately.
Personally, I think that you're going to see a lot more Weidman. He's going to get in, he's going to get out, and he's going to try and, make it a dirty fight, clinch him up against the cage, wrestle, wear him out, take him down, make him get back up.
That's for sure his
make
biggest...
him work, right?
His biggest chance is making this as dirty and grindy as possible.
Exactly. And if he can make that happen, that's why I see Reyes having an issue with this.
I definitely see Reyes having issues. It's just whether or not his natural abilities can overcome them.
Yeah.
I think that he's going to give Weidman difficulty on the feet. And I feel like as long as he can fend off the grappling of Weidman without gassing too much, this could end up being another sudden loss for Weidman. He's just winning the whole thing until he just isn't.
I don't know. Okay, so you're going for...
I'm going to have to.
What's your prediction?
I'm going for the Dominic Reyes, for sure.
Dominic Reyes, okay. And I'm going Weidman here, so...
All right, we'll move on to what should have been the main event a couple weeks ago in Mexico City. Yair Rodriguez versus Jeremy Stephens. I feel like we've already done a bit of a breakdown for this one. We've already gone extensively over, Yair Rodriguez's antics after the fight, how that's changed our opinion of him, how we might not necessarily be cheering for him as much for this upcoming rematch. What is your take on the fight? Just give us your pick. We've talked about this stylistic match.
This is going to be Stephens. Stephens is going to get another nasty KO. You do not want to piss off a guy like Jeremy Stephens, and that's exactly what Yair Rodriguez did. So I'm going Jeremy Stephens, either first or second round knockout.
I hope that Stephens isn't too pissed off and that he can still fight according to game plan, because to me, you're going to need about a round of leg kicks before you even start attacking with your heavy hands.
I disagree. I think he's going to interrupt a kick. I think he's going to counter a body kick and catch him with straight.
I think he could, but if I was Stephens' coach, that wouldn't be our plan. I wouldn't be like, catch him on a kick. I want something more high percentage. I want to immobilize him, and I want to make it so that when he does throw those flashy kicks, it's more labored and it's easier to catch him.
I just
feel like chewing up the calf the way he did against Melendez is the way he's going to do that.
I think this being a 3-round fight, them prepping for a 5-round fight, obviously both guys are going to be in great shape. And just personally, after the looks Yair was giving him in the first fight, I think that might just be a strike that happens to land. I'm not saying that's even part of the game plan. I just think Stephens is going to come out and he's going to be coming out and connecting quickly.
Okay, so this is a 3-round fight now instead of a 5-round fight. Is that better for Stephens or for Rodriguez that it's now 3 rounds? I
think it's better for Yair with his flashy style.
Yeah, with how much energy he expends.
I think him dancing around for 25 minutes, if it did go into the later rounds, would have went into Jeremy's favor. But that being said, Jeremy Stephens is just a killer dude. One of my favorite fighters, so I am kind of biased. But I think he's going to knock him out this weekend.
This really was tougher before the antics of the first fight because it really was 2 of our favorites kind of going at it, and Yair Rodriguez showed some ugly colors there. I'm gonna also go with Stephens. Yair Rodriguez kicked him so quickly, but just the way Stephens has been implementing his games lately, I think we talked in the original breakdown about how the differences in footwork between Zabit and Yair, and how Stephens was just barely not able to figure out Zabit. Some of us thought he won that fight. And I think I just see calf kicks all night, man. Yeah. I have a tough time not seeing Jeremy Stephens chewing up Yair Rodriguez's lead leg with calf kicks in the first round, and that drastically affecting how the fight goes from then on.
For sure, yeah. No, I could see that too. I'm just I'm being bold this weekend or this week, Gerber.
I'm not against it. I'm not against it at all. Jillian Robertson versus Macy Barber. I am probably there's a lot of these top 4 are exciting fights, but this is up there, man. This is up there for probably one of the most anticipated fights that I have in the women's flyweight division to see. And I'd love to see Jillian get through this and then take on Amanda Hebus.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. It's one of those fights it's really hard to pick. but Jillian Robertson, she's Canadian.
You got to go with her.
So I'm backing her all the way.
I think that she's going to get it done. I think Barber's got dangerous striking, and she's got technically sound striking that's unique to the women's division. Not a lot of people strike like her in the women's divisions, but Robertson's ground game is on another level, as we saw against Sarah Froda and not Magana, Macedo. It's just unstoppable at this point. Like, no one has been able to keep them off of her for more than a round.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I truly do see Jillian getting it done this weekend.
I see her working her way up to a title shot at some point.
No, I see a submission for sure.
Sorry, Macy. No youngest champ for you. Deron Wynn versus Darren the Dentist Stewart.
Oh, this is so interesting.
To me, this is
it's a really good fight.
Darren Stewart is a known commodity, a known knockout commodity.
Yeah.
And this is the UFC's way of legitimizing Deron Wynn, because I think he's going to put a spanking on Stewart in this fight. I think it's going to be a wrestling clinic.
Well, yeah, and it's sweet watching Wynn fight because he's so small for that division, but he's just like that powerful, stocky wrestler. And, he grabs onto you and there's nothing you can do about it. But he also knocks people out.
Yeah.
So
are you saying that he's great at wrestling and he dominates with his wrestling, but then he does something with it after?
Yeah, he does. But
cool.
No, I'm just saying, he literally he's a shorter opponent than lots of these guys. It's crazy watching him in the cage with another middleweight. It looks like
5'6".
Yeah, it looks like a lightweight.
When he used to fight a light heavyweight.
Yeah, so yeah, he's a fridge. He's a walking fridge. That being said, he trains with DC and Khabib.
Doesn't train with DC and Khabib. Teaches them wrestling.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I wouldn't say... They all teach each other, okay?
They teach each other, yes. But they brought him in as a wrestling coach, which shows you his pedigree as a wrestler.
It's one of those things, man. I would not actually be surprised to see Stewart pull this one off.
It's going to be a lucky shot.
With the power and everything.
That's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But to me, there's no systematic way that he dominates this fight.
So, yeah, I'm gonna just go with Stewart here.
Yeah.
Because I like him.
I like him a lot. I think his nickname's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that he walks with the surgical mask to the octagon. I'm going to go with Deron Wynn, though. I feel like his potential's too high. And I don't think... he's going to be finding anyone who shuts down his wrestling game until he gets to the top 5.
Yeah. That's fair. It's fair. I'm just going to go Stewart in this one. Just a nice knockout. Maybe an uppercut.
Just crossing your fingers. Catch him on the way in.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the dudes I know this week. Molly McCann. Meatball Molly's going to be fighting. Gotta love me some Meatball Molly, right? Yeah. Always in a good scrap. Always in a great fight. And improving every turn. Manny Bermudez is facing off against Charles Rosa. That should be fun. Kyle Bochniak, the Maniac, is back from the Zabit fight and from getting pieced up by Hakeem Dawodu. Boston Salmon, of course, they got to have that guy fight in Boston. Hopefully he gets a nice salmon dinner after his performance. Court McGee is always fun to watch.
Yeah,
true pioneer, true legend of the sport. Always good to see him. And then Kevin the Rubberman Holland is hopefully in there to flop around on the mat, talk some shit, say some funny stuff, and then wiggle his way out of the octagon with a split decision victory, as always. So this should be a fun night of fights. Not exactly as stacked as UFC Tampa was. That was ridiculous. I don't know what's going on lately. They've been jumping from having the Copenhagens and the Tampas of the world to having...
Well, you got to have, you can't always have all the big names on the card, there's lots of guys we just haven't seen shine yet. So, they're up and comers, and hopefully this weekend they make us remember the name, give us something to talk about next week.
Absolutely. I was just thinking, Copenhagen and Tampa had unusually deep prelim cards.
Yeah, but you can't always expect that. It's not always
can't,
like
but it's
that.
A treat. It's an unusual treat, is all I'm saying. Usually they save that stuff for pay-per-view or something like that, but we've had a real good treat in the past couple free TV cards.
As the sport grows, the better fighters, the better athletes we're seeing, so just the more talent we're getting each year. And it's just awesome to watch, and some of the best fight cards have been ones that I look at and go,
who are these guys?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's why the more you know. That's why you follow Throwin Bones for all the low level and the missable fights. We're going to let you know what you need to see and what you definitely don't. And what you definitely don't, of course, is Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington at UFC 245. You can skip that one. That's a beer watch. That's a pee
That's
fight.
a lie. Watch that fight. Don't listen to this guy. He's a Henry Cejudo fan.
Take a 25-minute pee during that one.
So this guy likes Henry Cejudo, so I wouldn't listen to him. But anyway, if you made it this far, thank you for listening to the Throwin Bones MMA podcast.
We're out.
We're out.
That was good. So wait, do I hate wrestlers or do I love Henry Cejudo?
You like, I don't know, man.